Tutorial 3. Calculating the pattern after individual measurements. All arrangements have been made in advance. I have sewn a corset mock-up and used it for taking all necessary measurements for my pattern. We are yet to do this together sometime later, but for now I will use the measurements I got off my mock-up. Let me draw a table first. The first column lists the type of measurements, and I need 8 more columns for writing their values. I write all types of measurements I need to calculate into the first column. They are the following measurements: bust front, BF, under bust front, UBF, bust circumference, BC, under bust circumference, UBC, waist circumference, W, stomach circumference, S. For this particular corset, I have taken the stomach measurement 9 centimeters below the waistline, both off the client and off the mock-up. Bust middle, BM, clip. The clip measurement is taken in the following directions: from the middle of the bust to the middle of the underarm, 1, and from the middle of the bust to the corner, 2. Instead of measuring the distance between the middle of the bust and the middle of the neckline, 3, on the central cut piece, I have decided to take another measurement that would suit a crew neck and a strapless neckline better. It is better to measure the distance from the bust line straight up to the neckline, 4, for this purpose. It is a lot easier too. This measurement equals 4 centimeters on my client. This mark indicates the deepest point of your crew neck. It will help you draw a beautiful neckline later. Due to these changes, I've denoted the clip measurements by a tick that represents the distance to the underarm area and to the corner of the corset, and an up arrow that represents the distance between the bust line and the neckline. Side length, SL. Back length, BL. This is the distance between the waistline and the shoulder blade. Whenever I take measurements off my clients, I ask them to move their arms to find the spot where the shoulder blade ends. Hip circumference, HC, I mention this measurement just in case. In my particular pattern, the length from the waistline to the bottom is 18 centimeters. Our pattern is designed for a long corset. We are going to remodel it into a short corset, the one I drew before, with a down-pointing triangle at the front. I will demonstrate how to remodel and alter it to achieve a beautiful bottom line at the front. The side seam will be rather short in this case, 9 centimeters from the waistline. In other words, the side length of the corset will end at the stomach level. Nevertheless, this pattern will come in handy if you decide to sew a dress with a see-through corset top. You can attach any kind of skirt to the bottom of a long corset to turn it into a pretty dress. And in this very case, you will need the hip circumference measurement that equals 18 centimeters, or any required length of your corset. Let's return to the table. The remaining columns will contain client's measurements, pattern measurements, alterations along the middle of the bust, BM, alterations along the side seam at the front, F seam, alterations along the side seam at the back, B seam, adjusted alterations along the side seam at the back, adjusted B seam, alterations along front princess seams, F curves, and alterations along back princess seams, B curves. All values in the table are measured in centimeters. Now, I just need to rewrite my client's measurements from my notebook into the second column of the table. I write measurements taken off the mock-up sewn after the original unaltered pattern into the third column. You should always make sure you know what you're trying to achieve before recalculating a pattern after your client's measurements. I receive a lot of emails with related questions. Perhaps you'd like to have a V-cut at the back. In other words, you want to have a lacing or a closure in shape of a triangle with bare skin or some underlay fabric seen through. Or maybe you'd like to have a fixed distance between the lacing bars, for example, 5 centimeters. Or maybe you prefer the halves of the back to close tightly in the middle. Make up your mind in advance. Remember that in such cases, you will need to make additional alterations. You will need to account for a relevant distance, either for a V-cut or for a specific distance of 5 centimeters or other. If you want to add a 5 centimeter wide opening at the back, you will need to add this 5 centimeters to all pattern measurements and then recalculate them after your client's measurements with this value accounted for. In most cases, I don't do it, and here's why. Judging from my own experience with clients who order wedding dresses well in advance, they tend to put on weight at first, and then start losing it by leaps and bounds as the wedding day approaches. There have been many cases when lacing bars would just start overlapping. I had to take emergency measures as quickly as possible. However, I leave it up to you to decide whether you should account for these alterations in advance if you need to produce a garment within short term. I will make all recalculations presuming that the lacing bars at the back close tightly. We'll see what comes out of it, but I've always found this way more convenient. I calculate the actual measurements without adding any extra space. So, here are 3 measurements you should focus on above all: bust front and under bust front. These will determine the location of the side seam at the front and in general. Bust middle. This measurement will show how much you need to alter the central front piece, including the cups, if relevant. In my case, the client's bust middle measurement is 18.5 centimeters, and the one on the original pattern is 19.5 centimeters. It is clear that I'll end up with an extra centimeter if I cut the corset according to the pattern. This centimeter has to be removed. But since this piece has a fold line, we need to divide 1 centimeter in half, and as a result, narrow the center of the front piece by 0.5 centimeters. This 0.5 centimeters should be kept in mind during the whole recalculation for all measurements. That's why I write negative 0.5 centimeters into every line of the third column. I write it down for the hip circumference as well. Although this measurement is optional, we might need it later. We are done with the bust middle, and now I start calculating the location of the front side seam using the first 2 measurements and accounting for the alteration of the central front piece. Bust front measurement. It is 45 centimeters on the pattern and 47 centimeters on the client. It is obvious that the side seam is going to shift. Let's calculate this shift. However, we have already narrowed the bust middle down by 1 centimeter. Therefore, 45 centimeters minus 1 centimeter equals 44 centimeters. 44 centimeters minus 47 centimeters equals negative 3 centimeters. This is the value our pattern lacks. That being said, we need to add a half of this value, 1.5 centimeters to the pattern. I write this value into the table, column 5, line 1, under bust front measurement. 37 centimeters on the pattern corresponds to 39 centimeters on the client. However, we have already narrowed the bust middle down by 1 centimeter. Therefore, 37 centimeters minus 1 centimeter equals 36 centimeters. 36 centimeters minus 39 centimeters equals -3 centimeters. This is the value our pattern lacks. This means we need to add a half of this value, 1.5 centimeters, to the pattern. I write this value into the table, column 5, line 2. Well, we have found two main values, and they seem logical if we look at the front side and back side patterns. But we are talking about the side seam of the front. If we need to add 1.5 centimeters at the bust line and the under bust line levels, then it is reasonable to assume that the same 1.5 centimeters should be added along the whole side of the front. If something doesn't match well later, we can work on the back princess seams and on the front princess seams that go down from the waistline. Of course, no alterations can be made for the front princess seams under the bust. But our front piece consists of 3 parts, i.e., there are 2 princess seams at the front. If we add 1 to 2 millimeters to each edge of both seams, the resulting shape alteration will be inferior, whereas the gain of circumference will be considerable. This way, we can alter the pattern significantly with the help of an inconsiderable adjustment of these seams. But I've run ahead of time. For now, we should add this 1.5 centimeters along the whole length of the corset. There is no alteration in the bust middle, of course. And since we are talking about the front, let's see what we should do with the clip. Clip to the side. It is 12 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 9 centimeters. So, I need to remove the following value. 9 centimeters minus 12 centimeters equals -3 centimeters. Clip to the corner. It is 12 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 10 centimeters. So I need to remove the following value. 10 centimeters minus 12 centimeters equals -2 centimeters. And I need to lower the neckline by 2.5 centimeters. 4 centimeters minus 6.5 centimeters equals -2.5 centimeters. Now the neckline should look beautiful and correspond to the measurement. I write the values into the table. Column 5, side length. It is 20 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 18 centimeters. This means the standard side length should be shortened by 2 centimeters. 18 centimeters minus 20 centimeters equals -2 centimeters. I write it down in the table. Column 5, line 9. Back length. It is 19 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 17 centimeters. This means the standard back length should be shortened by 2 centimeters. 17 centimeters minus 19 centimeters equals -2 centimeters. I write it down in the table. Column 5, line 10. Now, let me calculate the side seam of the back. Needless to say, there are no bust front or under bust front measurements now. I write a dash in lines 1 and 2 of column 6. The next measurement is bust circumference. It is 82 centimeters on the pattern and 85 centimeters on the client. I have already accounted for the adjustments of the bust middle, -1 centimeter, and along the front side seam, 3 centimeters. The value for 2 halves of the pattern equals -1 centimeter plus 3 centimeters equals 2 centimeters. Thus, 82 centimeters plus 2 centimeters equals 84 centimeters. 84 centimeters minus 85 centimeters equals -1 centimeter. This is what our pattern lacks, and therefore, we need to add a half of this value, or 0.5 centimeters, to its bust circumference. I write it into the table, column 6, line 3. Under bust circumference. It is 72 centimeters on the pattern, and 70 centimeters on the client. I perform the same kind of calculation. 72 centimeters plus 2 centimeters equals 74 centimeters. 74 centimeters minus 70 centimeters equals 4 centimeters. As we can see, we have extra 4 centimeters that needs to be removed. If we divide it between two sides, we get the value of -2 centimeters. I write it into the table, column 6, line 4. Waist circumference. It is 62 centimeters on the pattern and 64 centimeters on the client. Let me calculate. 62 centimeters plus 2 centimeters equals 64 centimeters. This value corresponds to the client's measurement. That means we don't need to change anything. I write a 0 in the table, column 6, line 5. Stomach circumference 9 centimeters below the waistline. The client's measurement coincides with that on the pattern, 78 centimeters. But we have already added 2 centimeters, 1 centimeter for each side, and it should be removed now. I write the value of -1 centimeter into the table, column 6, line 6. Bust middle, no alteration. Clip, no alteration. Side length, -2 centimeters. Back length, -2 centimeters. Hip circumference. It is 92 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 96 centimeters. Let me calculate. 92 centimeters plus 2 centimeters equals 94 centimeters. 94 centimeters minus 96 centimeters equals -2 centimeters. This shows that the pattern lacks 2 centimeters, so we should add 1 centimeter to each side. I write this value into the table, column 6, line 11. Now we have all necessary values for adjusting the pattern. Let's see what happened to the side seam. I need to add 0.5 centimeters at the bust line level and remove as much as 2 centimeters under the bust. There are no alterations along the waistline. However, I need to remove 1 centimeter at the stomach level and add 1 centimeter at the hips. The result is an odd wavy side seam line. That's exactly why we have provided for adjustments of the back and, when necessary, front princess seams. First of all, we need to choose a combined value of side seam alteration that arises logically from our calculations. This value should be the same along the whole side seam. Looking at our table, I suggest using a combined value of -1 centimeters. I write it into column 7, starting from the under bust circumference measurement. Since I wouldn't recommend making any changes to the bust circumference measurement, I write a 0 there, column 7, line 3. The thing is, there is a quite great divergence between the bust line and the under bust line at the side seam of the back, 2.5 centimeters. This value is hard to distribute between princess seams. In order to make this task easier, I have minified this divergence by altering the side seam of the front by -1 centimeters. In this case, the divergence between the bust line and the under bust line will be 1 centimeter, and the rest can be distributed between the princess seams. And now we need to recalculate everything very carefully in order to understand the way we will use princess seams at the front and at the back. The front princess seams at the bust and underneath it should remain untouched. It is a rule. I write dashes in lines 3 and 4 of column 8. Only the seams at the back are involved. Let us calculate it all over again, accounting for all values written in the table. Bust circumference. It is 82 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement equals 85 centimeters. I need to account for the adjustment of the bust middle, -1 centimeter, and along the side seam of the front, 3 centimeters. And then I look at the adjusted side seam of the back. The adjustment value for 2 halves of the pattern is -1 centimeter plus 3 centimeters plus 0 equals 2 centimeters. Therefore, 82 centimeters plus 2 centimeters equals 84 centimeters. 84 centimeters minus 85 centimeters equals -1 centimeters. That's the value we are to account for in the pattern. There are 2 back princess seams and therefore 4 cuts, or 8 cuts if we look from both sides. So this 1 lacking centimeter should be distributed between 8 cuts. 1 centimeter divided by 8 equals 0.125 centimeters. Putting it shortly, we need to add 1 millimeter at the bust line level of the back princess seams. Column 9, line 3. You can erase column 6. There are no alterations. Under bust circumference. 72 centimeters on the pattern corresponds to the client's measurement of 70 centimeters. I need to account for the adjustment of the bust middle, 1 centimeter, along the side seam of the front, 3 centimeters, and along the adjusted side seam of the back, -2 centimeters. The adjustment value for 2 halves of the pattern is -1 centimeter plus 3 centimeters minus 2 centimeters equals 0 centimeters. Therefore, 72 centimeters plus 0 centimeters equals 72 centimeters. 72 centimeters minus 70 centimeters equals 2 centimeters. So, I need to distribute this 2 centimeters between 8 cuts. 2 centimeters divided by 8 equals 0.25 centimeters. To cut a long story short, the pattern should be narrowed by 2 millimeters at the underbust level of our back princess seams. Column 9, line 4. Waist circumference. Now you can add the front princess seams as well if necessary. It is 62 centimeters on the pattern and 64 centimeters on the client. I need to account for the adjustment of the bust middle, -1 centimeter, along the side seam of the front, 3 centimeters, and along the adjusted side seam of the back, -2 centimeters. The adjustment value for the 2 halves of the pattern is -1 centimeter plus 3 centimeters minus 2 centimeters equals 0 centimeters. Therefore, 62 centimeters plus 0 centimeters equals 62 centimeters. 62 centimeters minus 64 centimeters equals -2 centimeters. The pattern lacks 2 centimeters. It can be distributed in the following manner: 1 centimeter for the front princess seams and another 1 centimeter for the back princess seams. 1 centimeter divided by 8 equals 0.125 centimeters. So I need to add 1 millimeter at the waistline level of the front and back princess seams. Columns 8 and 9, line 5. Stomach circumference. I make the same kind of calculation. It turns out that the measurements coincide, and there are no alterations of princess seams at the level of the stomach. I write a 0 in line 6 of columns 8 and 9. Hip circumference. Although this measurement isn't used in this particular case, let us still calculate it for future reference. It is 93 centimeters on the pattern, and the client's measurement is 96 centimeters. I need to account for the adjustment of the bust middle, -1 centimeters, along the side seam of the front, 3 centimeters, and along the adjusted side seam of the back, -2 centimeters. The adjustment value for two halves of the pattern is -1 centimeter plus 3 centimeters minus 2 centimeters equals 0 centimeters. Therefore, 92 centimeters plus 0 centimeters equals 92 centimeters. 92 centimeters minus 96 centimeters equals -4 centimeters. The pattern lacks 4 centimeters. It can be distributed the following way: 2 centimeters for the front princess seams and another 2 centimeters for the back princess seams. 2 centimeters divided by 8 equals 0.25 centimeters. As you can see, we need to add 0.25 centimeters at the waistline level of the front and back princess seams, columns 8 and 9, line 11. This way, we have redistributed the waviness of the side seam by adjusting the curved seams by 1 to 2 millimeters. Won't you agree that a variation of a couple millimeters in our princess seams is not such a great change compared to the variation of a couple centimeters that we had on the side seam initially?